about that, you'll think that special role that fathers have to ensure, and it just turns the whole notion on its head, right? As opposed to being in charge, it's that responsibility to ensure that all are heard, all are equals, that that process is protected, and that he's responsible to make sure that happens is a really powerful, I think that interdependence is very powerful. It's what good parents do, right?
Yeah.
It's that protecting the process of development, and that your whole investment is in their development as opposed to you, their conformity to you, right? Them developing the capacity for goodness in their own lives. And it's so beautiful to think about how God does that, how our Father does that for us.
So to tie into that description of presiding that Taylor and Jenet have been talking about here, the examples that we have in the ultimate example being Jesus, the Savior himself came down and he presides over everything in the church and in the world. He didn't come down thinking, what can I get from these people? Presiding that I want to try to do is even more than the sit with. It's serve, love, give my life for them, infuse any good that I can, because we all know we've got struggles and we infuse plenty of bad, but let me give them as much good as I possibly can. So it takes it away from a ruling power and more to a, let me work together with you to try to connect with heaven.
Yeah, it's beautiful, Tyler, the way you talked about it, because it's like a different flavor of nurture. It's actually a way of nurturing life and facilitating growth, but it's kind of a little different flavor than we typically think of. And then when you think about those roles of providing and protecting, the research on providing, sometimes I think we dismiss, because women can provide well and earn economically, we've dismissed the real profound gift it is to have fathers be providers of the needs of their family. And just the data on that is unbelievable. When children come from married families, the likelihood of them being in poverty is so much less. It's like 48% versus 11%, because there's a father working together with a mother in providing. Wow. And that means a whole different trajectory for that child's life. So providing is a big deal. Protecting. It's sometimes I've heard people describe that when a child grows up with their father in the home and who's monitoring their activities, and that the neighborhood knows there's a dad there, it's literally like this shield around that child that you can't see. That others who would target them potentially are held off by this beautiful protection from a father. Daughters who grow up with fathers, it's really remarkable how his presence in her life and closeness to her they'll say, set the trajectory for her sexual path. So her engagement, her way of relating to men in her life in sexual ways, that father, it's as if he sets for her what love looks like, that is not going to be exploitative, that is genuine and caring, and what a dynamic that is good with a man would be in her life, and how powerful that is. And boys growing up with fathers, the likelihood when they don't of being incarcerated or having kind of antisocial, as we know some of this data, right? You just think fathers, that providing, protecting, presiding means so much. And it's not that women are weak, right? It's not that we need to say women are weaker. It is this power that each one has that with a divine endowment and psychological orientation that allows them to influence children's development in unique ways that are equally important.
So to build on that, notice the next part where it says, mothers are primarily responsible for the nurture of their children. Now here to me is the key. In these sacred responsibilities, fathers and mothers are obligated to help one another as equal partners. You know, we were having this discussion in my home just a few months ago, actually. My wife and I were talking about this particular concept, and she made a beautiful observation that kind of shifted my whole view of this. She said, you know, we often just read the line about what the father's role in it and what the mother's role is, and then we stop there. But that next line brings them together as a whole, as equal partners. And then she started to point out just that very day, just simple things that she does as a mother day in and day out, and no reporters come. She's not on a video. Nobody's seeing it. It just happens over and over and over.
And it's these things, right,
What she described was
presiding.
She was presiding. She was with them, and she was making sure that certain things were happening and moving forward. She was providing for their needs in ways that I'll never be able to provide.
Yes.
She was giving them comfort and teaching and training and shoring them up and answering their questions, providing for all kinds, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, psychological, all of these different attributes. She's providing that. And
providing protection in
my
such powerful
children
ways.
are facing temptation and opposition in this world, just like you and your family face. And she shared some experiences where that child would share some temptations and some struggles. And the fact that she's sitting with them, she said she could almost feel this tangible shield from just her very motherly presence alone, protecting them
Power, yes.
from the powers of the darkness that's seeking to destroy them. And she said, she pointed out, Tyler,
You do a lot of nurturing.
You do a lot of nurturing with the kids, especially the younger ones, the way it works in our home. And it's different for everybody. But there's a whole lot of nurturing that fathers can do. So rather than creating this is my domain and that's yours, it's more of this is our domain. I need to make sure that these things are happening, but I'm not doing this alone and you're not doing that alone. We're doing this as equal partners together.
Tyler, you'll laugh that I'll never forget, my husband Mike he doesn't have any siblings, he's an only child, and so never changed a diaper before it was our kids, and doesn't have a lot of cousins or anything like that. And I will never forget, we brought our daughter home from the hospital, and he immediately, it seems like within a day or two, is doing calisthenics with her, throwing her up in the air, doing all of this tickling and tossing. And within maybe a year, I was researching the distinct ways that mothers and fathers nurture and bond with and do these different things. And it said, women coo and cuddle, literally the oxytocin that floods your body in the process of attaching with that baby. Who needs that attachment? And mothers, when we look at today, we can watch the brain actually develop and that interaction that mother has with the baby and what it actually does in terms of developing the capacity for relationships on the right side of the brain and moral understanding and all of these things. But then the father bonds, like a year and a half, that bond from a father becomes really important. And the same oxytocin, like he's being flooded with oxytocin and he's also getting vasopressin and other, is eliciting cooing and cuddling from her and tickling and tossing from him.
And roughhousing.
And roughhousing. And that's really critical. And it's not all, right, men and women are this way, express it in the same way, but the distinctions as well as the overlap are such powerful way of, and that's what the proclamation does. It allows for the distinction and also this very shared investment in children that allows mothers and fathers to each bring their uniqueness and influence those domains in powerful ways and share it, right? Share that responsibility together.
It's those two halves coming together to make a whole wherever possible. That paragraph ends with again, the exception, because there will be exceptions. We've taught the rules, the patterns, but then we have to acknowledge the fact that we don't live in an ideal world. So it says disability, death, or other circumstances may necessitate individual adaptation. And extended families should lend support when needed. Did you notice that? Extended families should lend support, not condemnation, not self-righteous judgment, not, well, we're better than you. And if you had only listened to me 20 years ago, you wouldn't be in this situation. It's that idea of when somebody shows up at the emergency room having a stroke or a heart attack, the doctor doesn't sit down and lecture them about their lack of taking care of their diet or their exercise or their physical health. The doctor simply helps work on the symptoms that they're being presented with at that moment. I think it's a good pattern for us as extended families to help in those situations. So as the proclamation now closes with these last two paragraphs, it ends with this idea of the serious nature of familial relationships and those physical and mental and emotional connections and bonds that our heavenly parents are asking us to try to form and nurture and grow in this life. When it says we warn, because that's part of a prophet's job, is to warn. We warn that individuals who violate covenants of chastity, who abuse spouse or offspring, or who fail to fulfill family responsibilities will one day stand accountable before God. And it talks about all these prophecies that have been given in ancient scripture and in ancient times, and they're saying the thing that will cause those prophecies to be fulfilled with destruction is disregarding the revelations and the directions given in this very setting of the family.
Yes.
I think that's significant.
Tyler, I love this calling upon all of us to promote measures designed to maintain and strengthen the family. I remember as a student seeing all that data and looking at what family structure means in children's lives, what it means to society, what it means to our economic well-being, and just feeling like this document is a gospel of love. It is teaching us how to be protected from things that would harm us. It's guiding us in the path of happiness and peace. It's showing us what love looks like and how to help have that in our family lives. And what a merciful and kind God to lay out, right? As if in one document, it distilled what thousands of research studies have shown about what puts people at risk, what's harmful, what's difficult for children, what's difficult for spouses, and puts it all in this beautiful document to say this is direction to experiencing love and joy and peace in your lives. And so when we defend it, we can feel totally sure that this is a work of love in defending the proclamation.
Yeah.